The big question would now be that let us look at this from another angle. If it is true that God knows the end from the beginning, that means God must have known that Eve would cause Adam to fall. And then by God insisting on their marriage would mean that God actually set up Adam to fall. But there was nowhere here written that God gave him a wife. Let us look at the birth of Jesus. The angels were really busy. The angels came, visited Mary, visited Elizabeth, visited Zachariah. None visited Joseph to tell Joseph, this is your wife. And the birth of Christ was the single most important event in the history and the future of mankind. Still, God did not interfere with Joseph's choice. God did not. All the angels visited, even visited shepherds, but none came to Joseph to say, go down Mafuluku, just turn by 7 and 8 at the 6 and 7 bus stop. The first house on the left, you climb up, you see one girl, Mary, that is your wife. Nothing like that happened. Joseph chose his wife himself by tradition called espousal. So if God did not interfere in Joseph's selection of a wife, and that wife was going to be the custodian, the most important event in history, then who do you want to give birth to? Who are you that God will now have to tell you whom to marry? When God did not do that in the birth of Christ. It is just funny. It did not happen in the most important birth. God never interfered with Joseph's choice. But it is now you that God will leave his sovereignty to start pointing. This is, look at it in the, all through scripture. Jesus said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to heal the broken heart, to do all that, to do this, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. There was nothing about marriage or religion, dating or marriage there. There was no prophecy, nothing about marriage. Jesus did not even, he just attended marriage feast. He did not ask them, did the Lord tell you to marry? So where is this tradition coming from that some men think they are the ones that will give the final answer on who you will marry, to tell you this is whom you will marry, this is not whom you will marry? It is not right. Let us move to the second issue, which is long distance relationships. A long distance relationship has been defined as an intimate relationship between partners that are geographically separated. The major characteristic of long distance relationship is the lack of face-to-face time or contact, Since the major component is face-to-face, that is physical intimacy, then it means that long-distance relationships are not only the result of geographical separation, but lack of physical presence, which means you can be in the same state and local government and yet in a long-distance relationship. Why? Because you and your partner don't get to see. You see once a month, or you have to travel to you see once in 3 months, or somebody is in the US or abroad in another country, and you just keep talking on the phone and via WhatsApp video call. Now there's a problem when a relationship is only powered by data. It is powered by network. That is where your relationship comes alive with the different networks here. And that is not even communication. That means you are just broadcasting. That is broadcasting when all you do is see each other on a video call, talk on an app. It is called broadcasting, which simply means sharing of information across radio and television. So what you do is broadcasting and not really dating. The absence of the physical presence leaves room for so many voids. First amongst it is that no information in present tense can be verified. If the person tells you I'm 6 foot tall, you just have to believe it because you have not seen him. Oh, I work at the British Home Office, or you just have to believe because you cannot verify. So it leaves room, no information you get can be verified. All you have are the words of a partner and hope that he is telling the truth or she is telling the truth. Long distance relationship leads to loneliness, which itself is a problem, as nature always abhors a vacuum. A void would always be filled by an interim. So partners cheat more often in long distance relationships than any other relationship. The warmth and presence needed, that is needed. And how long will a man hold out? I'm going to be in the US for 1 year. I'm dating you for 1 year. We don't, and the woman will just sit down, not going anywhere, not somebody taking her out for 1 year. It breeds a lot of insecurity, as you don't and often doubt your position. Jealousy is a big problem in long distance relationships. An American study of 1,000 people showed that, actually 58% were not successful, and the other 32%, the marriage did not last up to 3 years. So there's always before and after marriage. The things that happened. One found out after 2 years that the husband was gay. Many found out that this one had children outside. Then many found strange sexual preferences and suggestions because, they were just geographically apart. You now start discovering things after you marry, and then the center cannot hold. I absolutely discourage long distance relationships, especially, we are in this same Victoria Island, we get to see like once a month, and maybe just Friday, Saturday, Sunday you go. But it's not intimacy. You understand? So that is for long distance relationships.
But in terms of doing research, you mentioned that for example, you have to take things at face value. You can't necessarily confirm. But these days, social media is there. You can do a whole background search or something. There are ways it's done. There are ways it's done.
No, in America. Who would you ask?
It depends. It depends on if you know people there, and there are ways to check. There are actually ways to get these things done. Again, it doesn't guarantee a successful
I am in Texas,
relationship, but
I
there
know
are ways to
someone
find
in Miami,
out
and I'll now tell somebody in Miami to help me find out about somebody.
So, have you heard of what they call that thing? 6-degree rule of separation. Basically, anyone you need to know is 6 people away from that person. So ask questions. Do you know anyone who works in XYZ company? Okay, great. Can you connect me to that person? I'm trying to find out this one. That's if you're interested. Trust me, if you want to find out, at least for women, if women want to find out things, they will find out. But let's move on to your next point.
You see, what you are finding out are all the physicalities.
Oh yes, like I said, it doesn't guarantee a successful relationship. But I'm just saying.
How is he? Who is he?
It doesn't replace, seeing someone getting to observe character,
exactly
seeing how
character
they behave,
is.
how they smell, personal hygiene. But if you want to find out things, you can.
Then another problem has been the tradition and culture. I told you that at times the problem is not from the husband or the wife, but from the tradition. And tradition and culture has caused a lot of problems because traditions are long-standing customs and practices, within an area. The Latin meaning for tradition is tradere, which means to hand over from one generation to another. It means hand over, pass on. Tradition also goes with culture. Tradition is an inherited pattern of thought, action, and behavior. The belief or system of beliefs of a people, from stories commonly accepted as historical. But the thing about tradition is that it is not verifiable. There's no school of tradition. There is no police of tradition. It is just stories told from one generation to the other. So you cannot verify because everything about tradition and culture is in third person. Nobody was there. And these are the ideas of people that lived 300, 400 years ago. Now, the problem here with tradition and culture is where it imposes on your right to choose. That is when someone's thoughts and opinions, which resounded 300 years ago, is now dictating for you 300 years after, knowing that there is more knowledge. Now, they did not know better 300 years ago. So my confusion is, how can the dead be speaking louder than the living? the thoughts of people that are dead 300 years ago is controlling those that are alive 300 years after. How can the dead speak louder than the living? How can the dead, what did they know then compared to what a 12-year-old knows now? Let us look at some tradition. Look at last year, a man killed his 11-year-old twin daughters because he called them witches. Remember that in the past, there used to be killing of twins. We said Mary Slessor stopped the killing of twins, right? It was confusion by a native doctor who had never seen it before, where 2 children come out, 3 children come out. In the confusion, he declared it as an abomination, as something that was evil, witchcraft, and decided with that pressure on the king to now start killing people. They could not explain it, but now we can explain it. It is simple biology. Now this man, who should have killed those children at birth, if he was following tradition, allowed them to grow to 11 years old and killed them last year, his 2 daughters. Why? Because he allowed them. Eventually, tradition started prevailing on him, that see the way they are behaving. Any mistake they make, eventually he led them to the farm and said they should follow him to the farm and kill both of them there. That is when you allow people to start telling you, these your twins. How can they even tell you to kill your own daughters that they are witches? Because it is the tradition of that place. The man is in custody now. That is when tradition begins to dictate to you more than your common sense. You have no right to choose. But the issue is traditions are the opinion of dead people, people that were alive 300 years ago. And I keep repeating that my confusion is, how can the dead still be speaking louder than the living? They silence your thoughts. They silence your actions. We don't do this. We don't do that. You cannot marry from here. You cannot marry from there. I don't understand. I don't understand. Then the same tribe syndrome. I told you part of the problems that I realized was marrying from the same tribe. Look at this. A tribe is defined by Merriam-Webster as a social group composed chiefly of numerous families, clans, and generations having shared ancestry and language. This tells me that members of a tribe, to me, share the same weakness and strength, the same proclivities, advantages, and disadvantages, which tells me that the fact that you are from the same tribe means you suffer the same affliction. That is just what it tells me when you are insisting that you must marry from your village. The fact that you share the same ancestry just made it more likely that your parents or families must at one point or the other during history courted each other. And likely that a child even exists linking both families along the family tree. Because why? They share the same ancestry. So now what I don't understand is that marrying from your tribe, does that make it a perfect conclusion that your marriage will be happy? Why? Because we're from the same place. So your geography would affect the happiness of the home. Tribe is not virtue or character. It has nothing to do with happy married life. It just means that you have similar historical foundation, which means you have the same historical foundational problems or disadvantages, or suffer the same ancestral or geographic affliction peculiar to your tribe. So it tells me that you are blind in both eyes, because at least one will see, the other would. Where you cannot see, another will see. But when you are insisting that it must be from your tribe, that means there is nobody to reason otherwise. So I'm not saying that marrying from your tribe is bad, but I am not saying that marrying from your tribe would lead to a happy marriage. So what is the only advantage of tribe is that you are aware of the same culture and tradition. That is the same thing. The same culture, the same tradition, that is all. It does not mean good character. Tribe is not in any language virtue. Tribe is not in any language character. And character is what you choose your spouse on. Totally. Character is what you marry. Character is the choice.